Shortly after Tokyo had been selected as a host city of the 2020 Summer Olympics and Paralympics, newspapers all over the world covered the sad story of an elderly citizen named Jinno Kohei. While already being relocated once due to the construction activities related to the 1964 Olympics, he was asked to move again, this time to make way for the expanded site of the rebuilt Olympic Stadium. Understandably, this raised fears that the Tokyo Olympics would become a disaster in regard to human rights and the rights of tenants in particular. In my chapter, however, I show that neighborhood transformation in Tokyo is characterized less by direct and conflict-ridden evictions than by indirect, gradual, and spatially isolated forms of residential displacement. The decision to host the Olympics in Tokyo has accelerated the pace of ongoing urban transformation, but has not changed its basic character, nor has it initiated any major residential redevelopment projects apart from the Olympic Village complex. Tokyo, of course, is a far cry from being a socially just city, but the peculiar features of the real estate market, that is, the spatial fragmentation and high protection of property rights in Japan, mitigate the forces of residential displacement even when mega events such as the Olympic Games are involved. Instead, corporate developers divert their energy more to unused tracts of land in the Tokyo Bay area in particular, thus promoting what is known by the term new build gentrification. The decision to host the Olympics and the attendant urban renewal activities in Tokyo are typical examples of so-called entrepreneurial city politics. So what is entrepreneurial city politics? Well, to use David Harvey's words, this is an American geographer and he wrote this in 1989, entrepreneurial city politics is a technical term for a shift away from the long-standing managerial role of local governments to provide services, facilities, and benefits to urban citizens. And instead, cities now opt for economic growth strategies focusing on the attraction of external sources of funding, new direct investment, or new employment sources. To improve the competitive edge of urban areas, consumer attractions such as sports stadia, convention and shopping centers, or exotic eating places, and entertainment like the organization of urban spectacles on a temporary or permanent basis have become important elements of urban development strategies. And this entrepreneurial city strategy, again, is part and parcel of the larger neoliberal turn Japanese politics took since the start of this century. In Japan, it became finally established when Prime Minister Koizumi started running the government in 21. In direct response to the increasing international competition among metropolises to attract global finance and business functions, and inspired by the British urban renaissance strategy, the Japanese National Diet passed a law on special measures for urban renaissance that became effective in April 22. And this strong focus on the regeneration of Tokyo has without doubt contributed to the fact that the Japanese capital and the neighboring prefectures are now an island of growth surrounded by a sea of shrinking regions. So the Tokyo Olympics will further deepen this urban-rural divide in Japan. And I consider this a major impact of the Olympics on the general developments in Japanese society. In most cases, planning procedures for urban development projects somehow connected to the Tokyo Olympics started before 2013, meaning that the Olympics may have accelerated the pace of neighborhood transformation, but not initiated the renewal projects. So I don't see any major impact of the postponement decision for urban renewal in Tokyo. Well, the Olympic Village is another story. Here the problem arises how to use the site until the Olympics will eventually take place. And there were several proposals, such as the proposal by the mayor of Tokyo to use it as a hospital for non-critical COVID-19 patients, or another group voiced the opinion that it should be used as a homeless shelter. And of course, there's the problem with condos in the complex already sold for use after the Olympics. And here, of course, future owner residents will have to wait another year at least. But there are also positive aspects connected with the postponement. So a bus rapid transit system was intended to connect athletes with the mainland. So the system would start close to the Olympic Village, and so athletes could commute to the venues of the Olympics. And the problem was that there was a delay in construction, so everybody expected that it would not be ready for use in the summer of 2020. But now, due to the postponement, we can safely say that it will be ready. So this is at least one positive aspects one should mention in this context.